Hi, we're here today to talk about interpersonal effectiveness. And interpersonal effectiveness is really just the way we relate to each other and the way we communicate with each other. And we want to make sure that we're doing so in an effective way. That's always important in our relationships and never more important than when we're talking about things in the context of family relationships and eating disorder. So Maris, really interested to hear sort of your thoughts about this as you think about how you going through this journey with your family.
Yeah. My family did not know the term interpersonal effectiveness. I think we did our best throughout the process. And looking back, I think there's things that we just had to learn the hard way. And it makes sense when there's heightened emotion and you're at a challenging meal that you might not ask for things in the most effective way, whether it was me asking to have something different on my plate or to go out to eat with a friend, or my parents practically begging me to eat what I needed to recover. There's times where that comes out in not the most effective way. And that's very human. It's also something that we can work on and develop as a skill, which I think is a really lovely thing to get to offer to the families here at Equip.
Absolutely. I think that very few of us really have the necessity for that level of communication that we're talking about. And it is a great part of the journey in learning this and growing with it, and it can be taught. So some fundamental components of interpersonal effectiveness really relate to in some ways, really making a transition from being who's right or who's wrong to what's the effective way to handle this situation, and recognizing that sometimes we can lose the message in the delivery of the message. So if we're really conscious about how we're both receiving information and giving information, we can step into that space of effectiveness versus sort of a lot of what you described, which is a lot of trial and error and yelling and other things. So how would you sort of define some of those components that you think were part of that transition to more effective communication in your family?
I think one thing that was really helpful for us was focusing on listening as much as we were talking. So really trying to hear through what was on the table and more to what was behind it. So my parents being able to listen and hear, okay, she is obviously quite activated, quite upset. Noticing that meant I was probably having the eating disorder yelling at me quite loud in my head. And them even taking a moment to note that and say, I know this is a really hard meal for you, before they continue to voice their request of me in the moment. That went a long way for me, just to have that recognition that this is a really hard thing to be doing. And I think as the child on the receiving end of that, it was helpful for me to even notice, I can see that you're taking a lot of time to sit with me, and I really appreciate that. So even taking those small moments to listen and validate was quite helpful in having those requests be met.
Yeah, that really resonates for us as well. And I think one of the phrases I've heard since our time was connect before you direct. And I think that's so important to take a step back. Don't react, but act, which is what your parents were doing when they were not just reacting to the resistance at the meal, but maybe looking at what's behind that resistance. And is there a way for us to move through this? Like, the right thing is for her to eat. And we could scream about her eating all day long, and she might not eat. How can we effectively manage this interaction with a heavy dose of calm, with a heavy dose of taking a step back, making sure that we're in wise mind in the situation, and then approaching it in a way that's likely to lead to the desired results versus everyone spinning in frustration.